I have seen just how the Lord has used every single person for His glory and my good to get me through this. And so I know a lot of people like text us and they'll say, I don't want to bother you, or I'm here if you need me, or just like a quick text. And every single person has made a huge difference. And I say this all the time, but it's just so true. Like, it just gets me through the next day, or it gets Dustin through the next day, the next moment. Because with the quarantine, it has been really hard, as everyone knows. Like, if you're at home suffering with whatever, you know how hard it is to feel. Satan wants to convince us that we're all alone, and that we're isolated. It's a scheme that he really thrives on, to isolate us. So I was really, really worried at first about how I'm going to fight cancer alone during this quarantine. But the Lord has been so, so, so gracious. And I just wanted you guys to know, because maybe all of you all don't know what our church has been doing. This is not everything. I actually wrote more down, but of course I left it at home. So I'll try to write it down really quick. One thing that I've been very thankful for, that I know the Lord equipped me with, was with Pastor Todd and Pastor Bill, and how every time I would hear bad news or just feel really discouraged, the Lord equipped me, because He gave me two pastors who knew the Word, and I would just call Pastor Todd and just say, can you just preach the gospel to me? Can you just tell me the truth? Because I can spit the truth now, but it's so different when you hear it. And I was just so blessed, because without hesitation, he would just speak so many words of wisdom, and I would just be like, wow, it's like you're made to do this, or something, It's just like, man, it's like you're a pastor or something. And the wisdom that would come out of Pastor Todd, I was just like, oh my word, like that's exactly what I knew to hear. And once again, God would say, it's because I've equipped you for this. I've given you everybody that you need by your side to get you through this. And that wasn't just true for just cancer. God reminded me that was true after I had each single baby, after just small sufferings when Dustin worked 80 hours a week, and I just didn't feel like I could get through that day. And the Lord just has equipped all of us for whatever race is set before us. And then Pastor Bill, you all might have seen on Facebook where he would put those prayer devotionals together, and you all would share them. And it was just one of the biggest blessings to feel like him doing that, and to have so many people praying the exact same prayer together, sometimes at the exact same time. And I just felt those prayers. It's the only way I could have peace that surpasses all understanding. And then most of you all know this too, but I just am so amazed. This is one thing that I get to share at Markey Cancer Center with almost every single nurse and every single doctor. Anybody that will let me talk to them, I almost share this. Sometimes if they don't let me, I'll do it anyways. I tell them about how the church provides meals for 8 months. You guys have provided meals for us weekly, and I have cold chills just talking about it again. It's just amazing. No one, every nurse that I talk to, they're like, I've never heard that before. I've never heard that from a church. And the women that are cooking are either fully quarantined or semi-quarantined, and the ones who can't cook for me, they are providing gift cards. So you guys, the church is providing gift cards so these women can cook, and then there's this other woman who is able to go buy the groceries, and then there's pastors that pick up the food, travel it to my house, and drop it off. Like, who does this? This is totally the church. This is just so beautiful. And I just want everyone here who's a member of Grace Baptist to know, this is the church you're in. Praise be to God that we have this. And so many people are just being touched by me sharing these stories about how the church is the church. And then some of you all were fasting for me during different days. And then we got to have a worship night with my Sunday school in the youth room where we just sang and got some time together, totally 6 feet apart. And another thing that I really liked is that during my 11-hour surgery, the men, I don't know exactly who, but I just know men in the church texted Dustin around the top of every hour just to encourage him, to let him know that he is loved. And I just couldn't imagine like sitting in the waiting room for 11 hours not knowing what was happening to your wife. But I was so thankful that the men did that and just reminded him that he is loved and God is taking care of him just as much as God is taking care of me. So I was very, very thankful for that. Thankful for all the text messages and the prayer around my house where everyone gathered together and walked in a circle around my house. That was just so beautiful. And I got to share that with lots of nurses and other chemo patients. And I really hesitate sometimes to do that with other chemo patients who don't have a community. But then the Lord is just it's so good to just kind of pour through me. Like the Holy Spirit just will intercede in those moments. I just have discernment depending on who it is. And it really is encouraging to them because then they are reminded that that hope is for them too. Just because they don't have it and it's not having doesn't mean they can't have that. So being able to share that. And I have one friend here who brings me bread weekly because it's like the one thing that I can swallow down after chemo is just bread, carbs. If I feel weak, she brings bread. Another friend who brings from the church who brings me anything every week because of my cold sensitivity. I may and my nausea. Sometimes I can drink sweet tea hot, and sometimes I can't. Sometimes I need a Starbucks. I don't have to have that, but if she's asking, I'm gonna let her know. But all of those things have been huge blessings in just the church being the church. And so I hope that encourages you guys that this is here for you. And if you don't come to Grace, and if you need a church or you're looking for church, like this is the church. I have never experienced, of course we're gonna fail you. Of course we're not Jesus. We're not saying we are Jesus. We are trying to be holy as he is holy, but we fail often. And I just wanted to say that and thank everyone, and also make a mental note that a lot of these things I asked for. So I know that's like a struggle for some people. It's a struggle for Dustin and I to ask, but I just don't want you to be like, well, I was sick and they didn't do that for me. And I know my personality is a little bit different than most, some people might say. But I ask for these things because I know it's good. And when I'm sitting in darkness and when I'm scared and when I'm sad, and I feel like Satan is attacking me most, it's when I'm like, I can do this alone. I can do this. I don't want to bother them with prayer. I don't want to bother them with a worship night. I don't want to bother them for a meal. I don't want to have to say, yes, would like a sweet tea. But that is exactly what I want you to do for me. And so in my isolation, in my darkness, when I'm believing lies, I literally say, Raina, what would you tell someone else to do? If Natalie came to you, or your friend Miranda, or Dustin, whoever, Stephanie, if they came and said, I have cancer, what would you tell them to do if they were struggling? I would say, call the pastor. You need advice, call the pastor. So that's what I did. I was sitting in darkness. I was haunted by thoughts of death after my CA markers had gone up. It was just everywhere I looked, it was death. It was, Raina, you need to get rid of your clothes. You need to start passing those out. You need to start writing in journals for your kids so that they know what your last words are. I mean, it was just awful. And it wasn't anything I controlled. They just popped in my head. It wasn't like I was sitting there, looking in the dark, just stirring. I was actively doing stuff, and they would just pop in my head. And then I would have to fight against it. And so I was like, what would I tell someone else to do? I would tell them to call the pastor. And what would I ask if a friend of mine was really struggling and I know that she loves to worship Jesus? I would say, well, let's ask for a worship night. Why don't you ask for a night that you can have worship and sing and do prayer? So I even actually asked for us to do prayer tonight because I know that's what I needed, even though I don't want to ask. I have to break down a lot of pride a lot of times. And it's just really encouraging, though, because when we obey the Lord, and we do as he says, which is to ask, then there's so much fruit in that. So I just thank you guys so much for letting me ramble and talk, and thank you for partnering with me in prayer and ministry. I love you.